Hey, I'm Scott Decker, 3M Authorized Trainer. Today, we'll be installing a pre-cut hood wrap provided by TrueLine Automotive on this Toyota Tacoma. Some of the different tools and supplies you're going to need for this install are isopropyl alcohol with a nice spray bottle, some different types of microfibers. Definitely you're going to want a clay bar. Make sure we get the substrate nice and clean. We're going to look at different types of cutting tools, whether that's knifeless tape, scissors, or some sort of knife. We're going to look at squeegees with a buffer. We're definitely going to need some measuring tools, either a traditional tape measure or something that's a little bit more flexible. Magnets and tape both can be beneficial to help you position or hold your material in place. Wrap gloves are really helpful because wrap glove turns your hand into essentially a squeegee, so very nice to have. And then some of the specialty tools, having a blade cage, somewhere to snap your blades so you have a nice fresh blade, and then somewhere to store your old blades. And then you're going to need some sort of heat source, whether that's a traditional heat gun or a torch. We're going to start our cleaning process with isopropyl alcohol. You can use 70%, works really well. We're going to take and use our isopropyl with our microfiber, make sure that we get all the contaminants off the hood. We're going to pop the hood, make sure we clean all the edges really well. And then the last thing we're going to do is just go over it really quickly with a clay bar. We just want to make sure that we're managing all expectations as far as any of the imperfections in the hood are going to show through. So we just want to get it to the best finish that we possibly can before we start wrapping. If you're planning on just wrapping the hood, keep in mind, you still want to make sure that any of your adjacent panels are clean. So definitely take the time to wipe off your fenders, and on this truck, the top of the grill, just to make sure any of those contaminants don't get pulled up underneath your hood wrap. So the tape we talked about when we went over tools, this is where that's going to become really handy. So we're going to take a single piece of tape, about 1.5 inches, hang it off the end of the roll, and that's going to help hold the material on this side of the truck while we roll out our material. Before we move into our installation process, the last thing we want to check is just to make sure that we have enough material up and down and left and right. We can use our tape to hold it in place just to make sure that everything is covered. We can also use our tape for registration. We can rip our tape, pull our liner, and then we can line our tape marks back up. Now, as we move into removing the liner, just keep in mind that removing the liner can be a little bit tricky. As you're removing it, just make sure that you're not kinking or wrinkling or messing up the material, because the smoother it looks once the liner comes off, the better the installation process. Once you remove all of your liner, we're going to start the forming process. Forming is moving the material around the outside edges of the hood, making sure that it's taking shape of the substrate. This allows us to get all the material back to flat across all sections of the hood. Then we start our squeegee technique. Start in the center of the hood with overlapping strokes, working towards the edge. Always remember to have somewhere for your air to escape. Keep in mind, some hoods have deep recesses. So if the hood that you're working on has a deep recess, don't worry. What you want to do first is make sure that you find 2 parallel body lines. And we're going to commit the film to each body line. That way, our film is nice and tight over that deep recess. We're going to warm it up, and then we're going to use our glove and our palm to hit the deepest part of that recess. We want to make sure that we're committed to the body lines to avoid any glue lines. We know the film's hot enough once the film stops moving. Once it stops moving, stop heating, we'll take our glove and we'll hit the deepest part of that recess and go all the way through. Once the deepest part of that recess is committed, then we just have to come back and squeegee out the 2 flats. Once we're done with the installation portion, now we move on to cutting. Cutting is super important because the finishing makes everything look great. When you go to cut, make sure you're using a short, sharp blade, and you want to make sure that you're leaving just enough material to cover the edge. Because this is a white truck and we're wrapping it in a satin white, we're going to take and do a 45 cut off the front of the hood and leave just enough to cover that edge. If you wanted to leave a little bit more material, you could cut on the adjacent side panel. Just make sure that you've cleaned underneath the edge of the hood, wherever you're going to be sticking to, and then make sure once you get done, you go back and you post heat that edge really well. Make sure it's all the way down. Now that we're done trimming, we're going to go into post heating. Post heating is extremely important. We're going to break it up into two parts: flash heating and deep post heating. Flash heating is really going to be focused on the flat areas where we're getting the film up to temperature to get rid of any of the imperfections, scratches, maybe caused by the buffer while squeegeeing, or light or mist strokes, or where there's some bubbles. Heat those up, press those out. Deep post heating is going to be in your deep recesses and along your edges. Just make sure you're getting those nice and hot to reset the memory of the film, and then go back and do all your edges. That way we seal them up and we don't have to worry about any failure points. We've now completed our TrueLine Automotive pre-cut hood wrap. If you guys have any questions, make sure you go back, watch the video a couple times, really pay attention to the details, take your time, and have fun. As always, wrap on.